I would say mission is being creative, or another way of saying that is participating in the creativity that we find emerging around us. And particularly somebody who's involved in urban mission and ministry, I think cities have enormous creative energy. And one of the things that challenges me is, as a Christian community or as a church, we kind of find ourselves some way back, through the kind of food we eat and produce, or the expressions of art that we are involved in. We can be kind of somewhat boring and tame. And so this idea of embracing the energy of a city and all the kinds of movement and creativity that's going on within those areas is very exciting. And so I think for me, it's not just about being creative, but it's about participating in the creativity we find around us, and understanding that that is also a participation in the creativity of God. So if we're kind of creative just out of who we are, it's kind of limiting. And I think to be able to cross bridges into other people's worlds and to host them in our worlds and deal with the kind of energies and conflicts and ideas and imaginations that come out of that is very exciting. And it seems to me that kind of sparks a creativity that is not your creativity or my creativity, but it's something that happens, to use John Taylor's words, it's something that happens in the space that is between us. So I think in that kind of way we find ourselves sharing in each other's humanity at a really deep level. We find ourselves being changed, even converted into each other's lives, and in my understanding, we find ourselves being converted into the life of the God who's between us. So for me, in that way, in that sense, creativity is what lies at the heart, really, of being able to be human and also touch what is divine in ways which perhaps our own culture and our own limited experiences are unable to access. We've been looking at the idea of what constitutes place, and there's lots and lots of thinking about this that we've been exploring, but one of the understandings is that place kind of is a way of normalizing meaning. So when you look at place, you can think of a smooth surface of agreement. We all kind of agree that this place is about this. This shopping centre is where people should shop, and you shouldn't sleep there, or in the shopping centre, because that's not shopping. Railway stations are about travelling; they're not about places to defecate and urinate. So we have these kind of ideas about the normal use of spaces, and those meanings are dominant. They tend to close down imagination. They close down alternative ways of living. And so I think it's very interesting to think about ways of mission as transgressing the understood meanings of place, just like Jesus turned up the tables in the temple and transgressed what that place was being used for, or the way he sat in the wrong place when he was a guest, and people told him, come sit up higher. So he was seen to be consciously using the accepted meaning of the place to upset people and to say that something else is going on. But he himself did it with an impunity. So he began to establish new meanings, alternative meanings, and to expose the hidden interests of the people who really benefited from holding those kind of static meanings in place. So it seems to me, both from a point of view of social justice, but also from the point of view of imagination and creativity and living to the full, that we need to understand how places can close down imagination and can close down participation between people who find themselves marginalised and those in the centre. And we need to be a lot more creative about thinking about how do we open up Jesus spaces, redemptive spaces. In other words, spaces that are governed by the kind of humanity and relationality that emerged through Jesus' life and resurrection, and how we participate in the formation of those kinds of spaces to allow all kinds of expressions of creativity and humanity to come into the same space and to share together around, convened, if you like, by who Christ is himself.